Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
Nebraska is sending troops to the U.S.-Mexico border to help law enforcement there. Governor Pete Ricketts made the announcement on Saturday. NTD's Christina Kim has more details.
Shortly after the governors of Arizona and Texas asked 48 states for help at the U.S.-Mexico border, Florida answered their calls. Now, Nebraska is joining in. On June 19th, Governor Pete Ricketts announced Nebraska will send around 25 State Patrol troopers to Del Rio, Texas later in June. They're going to Del Rio possibly because their Border Patrol sector has seen a significant surge of migrants in recent months. The troopers will partner with the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the deployment will last no longer than 16 days. This comes as more than 50 House Republican lawmakers are calling on President Biden to replace VP Harris as the border czar. They note she has yet to visit the border and say 180,000 encounters and a 21-year high at the border is unacceptable. Harris said she would visit the border in the future and said she is addressing the root causes of the crisis. Typically, only federal officers under Border Patrol or ICE can detain people for immigration offenses. But because Governors Abbott and Ducey declared a disaster and an emergency, state police can make arrests in their states. Ricketts said the disastrous policies of the Biden-Harris administration created an immigration crisis at the border, and that Nebraska is stepping up to help Texas. Christina Kim, NTD News.
White farmers are challenging part of the recent stimulus law in court. They say a farm loan relief program discriminates against white people instead of treating all Americans the same. NTD's Patrick Hayden speaks to a lawyer representing some of the farmers.
White farmers in Illinois are suing the government over a farm loan relief program that allocates benefits based on skin color. In March, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan. The $2 trillion bill includes government debt relief to farmers, but only if they are a racial minority.
If you're black, if you're Hispanic, if you're Asian, anything other than white, you get your loans completely forgiven at 120%. And if you're white, you get nothing from the program.
Roper is challenging the program, saying it fails to adhere to equal protections under the law, which is the Fifth Amendment. The farmers' debt relief portion is only a tiny part of the huge emergency bill that was passed.
So I think it probably didn't get the vetting that normally you would have with this type of legislation because of the speed they were trying to get it passed. But the government is attempting to justify it by saying, well, in the past, there has been discrimination against racial minorities.
But he says past discrimination has already been taken into consideration.
They've set up new programs. They've set up new agencies within the Department of Agriculture, and they've paid out over $2 billion to settle class action lawsuits challenging discrimination.
Roper says his clients are frustrated at the inequality. They're requesting preliminary injunctions to put the government program on hold while the case is running. Roper says there are more cases like this that will be filed. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
Another news reporter has called out their media outlet during a live broadcast. This time, a weather anchor at CBS 62 in Detroit, Michigan. She says she'll be discussing alleged discrimination by CBS with Project Veritas this week. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Good evening and thanks for watching First Forecast.
What seemed like a normal weather report took an unexpected turn Sunday morning when CBS 62 meteorologist and anchor April Moss announced she would expose the network whilst live on air.
Plenty of sunshine today, but all good things must come to an end, and that starts as early as tomorrow morning with showers moving in around 8 a.m. And speaking of a brand new week, I will be sitting down this week with Project Veritas to discuss the discrimination that CBS is enforcing upon its employees. Tune in to Project Veritas for my full story. Now, later Monday, we will see those showers continuing through late morning, but by evening we'll see dry.
She went straight back to giving the weather forecast like nothing had happened. NTD News reached out to CBS 62 and Moss, but we didn't hear back from them before airtime. It's not known if Moss is still working for the network or if any disciplinary measures have been taken against her. Moss is the third reporter to come forward in the last few months. Just last week, Fox 26 reporter Ivory Hecker was suspended after she also called out her network during a live broadcast.
Right, before we get to that story, I want to let you, the viewers, know that Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers, and from what I'm gathering, I am not the only reporter being subjected to this.
The next day, she released a video with undercover journalism nonprofit Project Veritas, just as Moss is expected to. In March, former Fox 10 news anchor Carrie Lake announced she was leaving the network, citing the direction of her newsroom. In a tweet, Lake commended Moss and told the, quote, corrupt news media that their days are numbered. She wrote, "People are waking up to your propaganda, bias, and lies. To the honest journalists still working in the fake news, do the right thing and get out." She applauded Moss and Hecker, saying, "Courage is contagious." Project Veritas told NTD that they're hoping to set in motion a movement, saying they hope Moss and Hecker will inspire more journalists to come forward. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
And Project Veritas told NTD News that their interview with Moss will be released tomorrow. We'll keep you up to date as the story develops. And hospital workers are fighting for the right to turn down vaccines in Texas and keep their jobs. A federal judge has tossed the case out, but they've already appealed. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
Get a shot or lose your job. That's the predicament some hospital workers are facing in Texas. The Houston Methodist Hospital is requiring staff to get vaccinated against COVID-19 or else.
This is the first time they've literally terminated people.
Nurse Jennifer Bridges tells me she's worked there for 7 years. Joined by over 100 other hospital workers, she sued the hospital over their policy. But a federal judge recently threw her case out, saying Bridges can freely choose to accept or refuse a COVID-19 vaccine. However, if she refuses, she will simply need to work somewhere else. Bridges has since appealed. She argues that since the FDA hasn't approved of the available emergency use COVID vaccines, employees can't be required to take them.
Hypothetically speaking, let's say you lose your case. Is fighting for this right, the ability to turn down a vaccine, worth losing your job over?
Oh, most definitely. My actual official termination date is today. We just completed our 2-week unpaid suspension, and I've already found another job. And yes, most definitely. Like, I want to fight this as hard as possible. I am getting so many people, thousands of people across the world now to support us and help us and stand together, because it's so much more important than just my job. I can find another job, I can struggle for a couple of months, but the public needs to know the truth about this, and they need to get proper informed consent.
Put another way, she says employees must be informed volunteers if they are to be vaccinated with experimental vaccines. They can't be coerced. The Houston Methodist Hospital hasn't gotten back to us. In a company memo, CEO Mark Boom says the COVID vaccines are safe and extremely effective, which made it easier for them to mandate the treatment. But like other vaccines, people have suffered from mild to serious adverse reactions or died after getting them. Bridges is waiting for her next court date. She tells me she'll take her case all the way up to the Supreme Court if she has to. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
A top Chinese spy has reportedly defected to the U.S. Some sources say that he passed on important information about the origin of the virus, names of Chinese spies in the U.S., and more. NTD's Tiffany Meyer reports.
Rumors are circulating that China's top spy catcher has defected to America. According to Chinese and English language media outlets, the intelligence he brought may shed light on the origin of the pandemic. Both U.S. and Chinese officials have stayed silent so far. NTD cannot independently verify the details. But conservative media Red State and intelligence news site Spy Talk claim they've confirmed from separate sources that the Chinese man's name is Dong Jingwei. Dong is Vice Minister of China's Ministry of State Security. That's Beijing's intelligence security and secret police agency. Chinese state media reports that he's responsible for the ministry's counterintelligence efforts, that is, to catch spies. According to Red State, Dong fled to the U.S. in February and has been working with the Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA, for months. The agency is part of the Department of Defense and the U.S. intelligence community. He's reportedly submitted critical information to DIA that includes the Chinese regime's early studies about the CCP virus, known as COVID-19. Models predicting virus spread and its potential damage to the U.S. and the world, as well as the names of Americans who provide intelligence to the Chinese regime, and names of Chinese spies working in the U.S. He also claimed the Chinese regime has gained access to a CIA communication system, leading to the deaths of more than 10 Chinese people who had worked with the CIA. On June 18th, just days after news about Dong's defection, China's state-controlled media reported that he had spoken at a seminar on Friday. But unlike standard news articles, the report did not mention where the seminar took place, nor did it contain any photos of Dong. It also claimed that at the seminar, Dong cautioned Chinese spies to watch out for moles who work with foreign forces. Speaking to Radio Free Asia, former U.S. diplomat Matthew James Brazil said the Chinese regime published the piece in an attempt to debunk the rumors about Dong's defection. He took special notice of the lack of a photo, saying if he were Beijing, he would have at least added a picture of Dong to show that he's still in China. The story has caused heated debate. Senior member of the Republican National Committee, Solomon Yue, is now betting his committee seat that the rumors are true. Yue told a Chinese language media that he had confirmed the news from what he called a reliable source. Dong's intel about the Chinese regime's infiltration into the CIA fell in line with a New York Times article from 2017. The newspaper reported that between 2010 and 2012, Beijing deconstructed the CIA's operations in China by killing or jailing over a dozen of the agency's sources in the country. One of them was reportedly shot in a government courtyard in front of his colleagues to send a message to other CIA informants. At the time, some U.S. investigators suspected that China may have hacked the CIA's covert system, used talk with foreign sources. Other reports also suggest Beijing's infiltration into the CIA. In May 2019, then CIA officer Kevin Patrick Mallory was charged with spying for China. He was later sentenced to 20 years in prison. In November of the same year, another officer, Li Zhenchen, admitted to providing secret intelligence to Beijing. He was sentenced to 19 years. China will likely face a dilemma over the origins of the CCP virus. That's according to U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He told Fox News in an interview on Sunday that China will face isolation if it does not cooperate with probes into the origins of the virus.
Either they will allow, in a responsible way, investigators in to do the real work of figuring out where this came from, or they will face isolation in the international community.
The origins of the CCP virus remain a mystery, even after almost 2 years. A team led by the World Health Organization, or WHO, spent 4 weeks in and around Wuhan with Chinese researchers earlier this year. In its report, the team claimed that the virus probably transmitted from bats to humans. And that introduction through a laboratory incident was extremely unlikely. But experts said some data have been withheld. And the U.S. mission to the UN said in a statement last month that the WHO study was insufficient and inconclusive. Sullivan says the U.S. won't count on China to find out about the virus origins without external pressure.
It is that diplomatic spadework, rallying the nations of the world, imposing political and diplomatic pressure on China.
He says the Biden administration will cooperate with the intelligence community and allies to press the matter on every front until they find a result. But in another interview with CNN, Sullivan says the current administration will not apply any immediate pressure on the CCP over the matter. Last month, President Biden ordered aides to find answers to the origins of the virus. He said they will be looking at rival theories, including the lab leak theory. But Beijing claimed that politicizing the issue will hamper investigations.
All 9 members of the Supreme Court ruled in lockstep on Monday. They say that student athletes could receive more benefits, and this could lead to competition between schools to try to recruit the best athlete. NTD's Lin Lin reports.
The National Collegiate Athletic Association of NCAA has curbed education-related benefits to student athletes. These non-cash payments include benefits like computers or musical equipment. But the Supreme Court just ruled against the organization, instead siding with the students. The unanimous ruling opens the door for student athletes to get more non-cash compensation, and this could reshape the billion-dollar college sports industry.
There is going to be an opening of at least competition for what's being offered to them for student benefits, for educational benefits. That's going to become a new plane where schools are going to compete when they're trying to get athletes to come to their schools.
The NCAA argued that limiting players' pay helps to distinguish between amateur and pro sports, but the Supreme Court ruled it violates federal antitrust law. Justice Brett Kavanaugh said the NCAA is not above the law, and nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate.
It opens the door for the possibility that we could one day see student athletes being paid some amount for their services.
This comes as several states, including California, allow students to make money from their name, image, and likeness. Congress is also considering legislation on this issue. Lin Lin, NTD News.
Navigating a world of economic madness, you need to have the right guide. What do today's decisions mean for your tomorrow? We ask why. What's the alternative? Uncover the deeper reasons and the hidden influences, and highlight the real opportunities for profit. At NTD Business, we connect the dots for you. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.